Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Arsh Ellahi. Tonight is Sunday, the 17th of January 2016, and I am extremely excited about tonight's webinar because I'm going to be talking about some of the activities that I did in 2015, and one part of my business was how I actually traded 140 properties in this year. More importantly, I want to show you how, by just literally copying and pasting my simple formula, how you can achieve the same results. That's right. So regardless of where you are in your property journey, whether you've got no cash or whether you've got bags of cash, this is for you. So we're going to start moving forward because I've got you for 90 minutes. And in that period, what I would like to figure out is who you are, where you are, and more importantly, how I can help you, and also look at live proof as to some of the deals that I did in 2015. So in the 90 minutes, here's what we're hoping to cover: how to find a raging torrent of motivated sellers, how to elegantly negotiate a win-win discount price to buy their property, how to add value to the property without actually doing a refurbishment project on it, even sell the property for more than the market value, so that you can easily sell between one deal a month for more than 10 to 40 grand. Now, the reason why I say that is because the average national wage is approximately between 25 and 27,000 pounds per year. Now, all you need is two deals or even one deal at the 40k and you've covered your wage for that year, which means that you could be financially free too. So we'll be talking about the definition of what financially free means, because this is a real big part for me. But before we do all that, let's just get a bit of an introduction as to who I am and what I do. So for those that don't know, my name's Arsh Ellahi, and by no means am I anything spectacular or anything like that. I'm a normal person just like you. So I like to do little things like hang out with my kids. I like to, I'm married with two children, and I do exactly the same things that you do. I go to the cinema. I'm not this superhuman person that people think, oh, okay, we're on a webinar with Arsh, and I wonder what he's going to be talking about tonight. But these are things that you're going to be able to achieve. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a rocket scientist. In actual fact, I left school with very little education, or should I say the certificates for education. But yet somehow I've got to this point of financial freedom, and property has allowed me to do that. So I'm going to tell you about a little story about myself. So my name's Arsh Ellahi. I run a group of 12 property companies with my brother Aki Ellahi, and together we're landlords and letting agents. We've been letting property since 1973, which technically speaking isn't correct, because I wasn't actually born until 1980. And I've known nothing other than being a landlord or be involved around property since the age of 4 years old. So from the moment I was able to walk, I was involved in property. My father had a small portfolio, and how it worked was that when I left university, he asked me and my brother to look after it, and we rapidly grew that portfolio. We've now got well in excess of 500 tenants who are all on benefits, which may scare some people, but in actual fact, when you looked at the figures, it's actually quite a rewarding sector, and it can actually be quite a hassle-free sector as well, providing that you get it right. And here's the key, is that we've got a 100% rent collection record and a very high 98% occupancy rate. Now, that might all sound good, but the one thing that you've got to take away from this is that with over 600 tenants, I'm still able to go out and pursue other business activities. Now, some people may consider property as almost like a ball and a chain around their neck, and we'll talk about that shortly. But the system that I've created for my own portfolio has allowed me to go off to pursue other business interests in property, which also allowed me to make money, which in a whole group and grand scheme of things, I'm making money every step of the way. And this is where you want to be in property. And this is where I want you to be. So I'm going to be showing you how you can do it too. So here we are. So I'm on the left-hand side. a little slightly younger then. But here's my brother on my right hand side, who people think that we look alike, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. You decide. So between us, we've got a decent array or portfolio of businesses, and it works really well for us. We are actually very much like chalk and cheese. I'm very much a yes person. My brother is a little bit more skeptical, a little bit cautious. But between us, we make a good mix. We're a very good, you know, we've got a very good relationship, not only on the field but off the field, and it works really well for us. So, who am I, and why should I actually be speaking to you tonight? So, yes, I am a speaker. I'm an author of an Amazon award-winning book called Boom Bust and Back Again, which was actually released and found Amazon bestseller status in 2015. I'm a property trainer. I'm a landlord, which means that not only am I walking the walk, but I'm talking the talk too. But I'm also an investor, as I flip and trade properties. I also am a franchisor of a letting agency. And for those that follow me quite closely, I was actually on Channel 4 last year on a program called Britain's Benefit Tenants, and it showed how we deal with benefit tenants and how, even though they're stigmatized as possibly the worst segment in the tenant market, how you can still act ethically and still run it as a business. And the other things that I do, I write articles for certain publications, and I go around speaking nationwide. So where it all began. Now, as I said, I started university. I left university at the age of 20, and I needed to do something with it. So I had to have a look at what my strengths and weaknesses were. Now, one thing that I've never really told anyone, and this is going to be quite a personal story actually, is that whilst I was in sixth form, I was approached with an opportunity by a friend of mine, a still very good friend of mine, and he said, "Oh," she goes, "I've come across this person who imports watches, and they've said to us that if we wanted to, we could borrow the watches off them, and we could go and set up a market stall somewhere locally, and we would only buy the watches off him after we had sold them. So pretty much on a sale or return basis." Now, at the time, I was 16 years old, and what really resonated with me is that I had no money or very little money. My dad would have lent me some money if I asked, but I was always very independent. And I said to him, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and do these markets. So initially, my dad used to drop me off at the markets. I would turn up with a box load of watches. I would turn up with two wallpaper pasting tables, just to give you an idea as how amateurish we started at. And I would stand there all day shouting, "2 watches for a £5, come and get your watch today." And believe it or not, that was the start of something fantastic. It gave me confidence. It taught me negotiation skills. It taught me how to build rapport with a purchaser, someone that was just average walking past. And I appreciate that now. £3 for a watch or 2 for a £5 isn't exactly a hard sell. But when you work on the basis that most people already have a watch on their wrist, do they need 2 watches? But it's about how I made them feel when they had that watch on their wrist that really sold it. And at 16 years old, I was bringing home like £1,000 a weekend, £1,000 a weekend. Now, I extended that in the summer holidays. I asked my dad to do something a little bit naughty for me. He hired a van and he allowed me to drive it. And I went and spent 6 weeks down on the south coast, and we did all the markets on the south coast. I went to Bideford, Ilfracombe, Willicombe, Minehead, and there's one other. So I spent the whole. You could say that I was really quite entrepreneurial from quite a low age, or at 16 years old. I went off and did markets by myself. I had no knowledge of market traders whatsoever. I just learned it as we picked up. I learned a lot of lessons on the way, but eventually it got me to a point where I was making a lot of money for a 16 years old. Then I went off to university, and I didn't really do that in university because it wasn't very trendy. But I left university as a broke 21-year-old, but I knew I had to do something. And property was the thing that was going to get me out of hardship to financial freedom. So we'll be talking about how I do on average around 10 deals a month, which allows me to generate a commission of anywhere between 10k to 40k profit on each without buying the property or even paying for the property or even paying for the refurb. So now, the reason why I say there's a big difference between actually being a landlord and being a property investor, because I believe that a property investor actually equates to cash flow. Landlords, when we talk about landlords, we're talking about properties who have got a 75% buy-to-let mortgage on their property. They've put in 25% deposit, and after all costs, they're probably leaving with approximately, say, £200 to £300 per month cash flow, which over a year is £2,500, give or take a few pounds. Now that's great, and that could be a great long-term strategy, which means that you could accumulate a lot of properties slowly but surely, but it's not going to get you to financial freedom. Whereas cash flow gives you the time and the money and the freedoms which many landlords will never find. So that's the definition between what I would consider the difference between a landlord and an investor. Now, one thing I'd like to do is figure out who we've got online and what you want from property. What's your reason why? Why do you get up and do it? Now, some of the pictures that you're going to see on the screen right now, you can see that we've got a happy family here. We've got someone playing golf. There's a long road, which means that they could be on vacation. It could be the road to financial freedom. Now, why don't you just tell me on that right-hand side what your definition of financial freedom is and why do you want to be involved in property? Okay, so very quickly, we've got some people coming on saying that they want to spend more time with their family. They want freedom, flexibility, and choice. They want to earn, well, here's a big one. They want to earn 12k a month. It's achievable. They want to help less fortunate people, which is very commendable, because once you start giving back, the earth starts giving you a lot more. And I'm a big believer in karma like that. So that's a great answer. How to provide a great lifestyle and security for my family. So everything goes back to freedom and family. They want to decide the time that they spend with their loved ones. They want to leave a legacy for children. They want to replace the income and help the family. Some people just actually hate work. Hate's a big word, because if you really hate something, that means that you've got to do something now to change it. Because slowly but surely it will be eating away at you slowly to a point of where you become insane. So, okay, so everything comes round about freedom, but how do we get to freedom? We need money to get us to freedom. Money buys us so many more opportunities. So tonight I'm determined to show you how you can easily exceed your job salary with property cash flow within the next 3 months. So we're talking about time. Time is now. Time for change is now. So for those that don't know, I'm a regular contributor to a magazine called Your Property Network. It's a magazine written by property investors like myself for property investors like yourselves, and I give away every month some key and golden nuggets as to why you should be involved in property and the different aspects that property can throw at you. So let's keep moving forward. Now, I'm going to share with you quite a personal story, and I apologize in advance if I get a little bit emotional at this point, because one of the stories is really still quite raw, and it's got a lot of emotional attachment to me. So I'm going to talk to you first of all about my reason why. My first reason why is always at the forefront of my mind, and these are my 2 daughters. So my eldest daughter at the top is Anya, and my youngest daughter is Isla. Now, there's not a massive age difference between these two, and these 2 girls 2.5 years old and 1 year old. So I've got a very young family. So I've got a real reason why, as to why I need to get out of bed in the morning and go and do what I do. Because I believe that property, and I'll be talking about this shortly, is property should work in 3 life cycles: a short-term cash flow model, a medium-term cash flow model, and a long-term property strategy model. Your short-term and your medium-term should be able to service your long-term strategy, which we'll talk about. Now, my long-term strategy is to accumulate a lot of properties, which I can then hand down to my 2 daughters, who will benefit from this in the long term. So there's my reason why. So on the 8th of February this year, sorry, the 8th of February in 2015, I was blessed with my second daughter, Isla, who's pictured at the bottom there. Now, as you can appreciate, now just imagine if you're a father or if you're a mother and you've got children, how did that make you feel when you were blessed with a child? You were holding your daughter in your arms, or your son or your child in your arms, especially if you were told that you were never allowed to have kids, which is the story and the journey that myself and my wife went on. Now, how special does it make you feel knowing that you're holding this miracle? Now, that was on the 8th, Monday, the 8th of February 2015. Now, here's my second reason why. And again, I apologise if this touches me now. Now, every time I look at this picture, I just sit here proud as punch, because on the 8th of February, I gave this man a second granddaughter. Now, on Friday, the 15th of February, which is 5 days later, sorry, Friday, the 13th of February, which is 5 days later, my father called me. He goes, "Oh," she goes, "would you mind running me up to the hospital?" He goes, "I've got a bit of pain or congestion on my chest." He goes, "Would you mind just taking me up there just to get it checked out?" I said, "You know what? Whatever you want to do, let's go and do it." So I took him up there, and the doctors checked him out. We sat around in A&E for quite a while, and the doctor says, "Mr. Elahi, we can't seem to find anything wrong with your chest, but just on the scans, we seem to have found a bit of a cloud down by your liver." And I said to the doctor, "Okay, so can we check that out? What do we need to do to figure out what do we need to do? How can we figure out what's going on with it?" So they did the test and said, "Okay, we think it's cancerous. So we think you've got cancer, and it's liver cancer, and it can be quite aggressive." And at that point, my world absolutely shattered, because here I am standing in front of my best friend, my mentor, my business partner, who's told him that he's got cancer now. As you know, cancer is something that can wipe anyone off this planet. So I said to the doctor, I said, "Just out of curiosity, can you tell me what kind of lifespan are we looking at?" And they reckon at that stage that he had no longer than 12 months to live. Now, I found that really hard to deal with. The reason why I found it hard to deal with is because for a person that I've looked up to for 34 years, I couldn't comprehend with the fact that he was no longer going to be there for my 35th birthday. I couldn't figure out that he was no longer going to be there. He wasn't going to be at the end of the phone when I needed him. So I said to my dad there and now, I said, "You know what? I don't care what happens. What we're going to do is we're going to make the rest of your time as comfortable and as enjoyable as you want." So I said to him, "What do you want to do for the next 12 months? Wherever you want to go, wherever you want to travel, I'm going to be stuck right next to you." He goes, "Son, I want to go to Harrods for one last time." And he absolutely loved Harrods. And I said, "I'll tell you what, let's do this in style." And so what I did, I hired a private helicopter, and it was arranged for him to fly on his birthday in April from Wolverhampton and to land on the Harrods roof. And we were going to have a personal experience through Harrods. So we were going to have personal shoppers. We were going to have a certain area of the restaurant closed off. And I arranged for all this to happen for April. Unfortunately, from the date of diagnosis of the 13th of February, to Monday 16th of March, he only lasted 3 weeks. So he never really got to do what I planned for him. So this is the reason why I think that now, if you're stuck in your job, if you hate your job, now is the time to take action. Because I went through quite a strong grieving process last year, and something that came out is that no one's promised tomorrow. We have to live for today. Live every day as if it's your last. And that's how I live my life now. So I live my life for these two girls. I live for the now. I make sure that I create enough money now so that these two girls don't have to worry in the future. So here's what I did. I created a short-term business which will provide sufficient income, which will also be able to sustain my medium and long-term goals. So I've got a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term strategy. But here's the key now, and here I thought this was the right point to put this slide in, is that someone offers you an amazing opportunity, but you're not sure you can do it. Why don't you say yes and then learn how to do it later? Because remember, we may turn away so many opportunities thinking, well, I don't know how to do it, what if, and what if. But if you actually say yes and buy yourself some time and figure out how to do it, think how many more opportunities you're going to be open to. And you've got to think that last year I flipped 140 properties, which is more properties than some people will actually buy in a lifetime. And tonight we're going to be talking about how I did it. When we look at some of the largest businesses in the world today, we look at Facebook, we look at Uber taxis, we look at Airbnb. But in actual fact, when we start to dissect them, we actually realize that they actually own very little in assets. So Facebook doesn't actually own any content. Uber doesn't actually own any taxis. And Airbnb doesn't actually own any property. But yet, they're supplying a service and they're being paid a commission for that service. And they've grown into some of the largest businesses in the world. Now, I found this quite funny when I was doing my slides earlier today. And when you're flipping properties, you're obviously not flipping it like a pancake. All you're doing is a very simple 3-step process. And I'll be talking about the 3-step process. And there's 3 people involved. There's the vendor, the person that owns the property. There's you, who's the sourcer or the trader. And then there's finally the third person, who's the investor, who's going to be buying it off you. Now, giving you a bit of a background, I've told you about my market trading history. Now, back in 2000 when I left university, I set up a business called webuypropertiesfast.co.uk. And when you're listening to this, I would have taken my website offline just for the night, just purely because I get bombarded with so many inquiries hereafter, people trying to figure out what my processes are. And we generally take it down and we put it back up a couple of days later. And the reason why I set up We Buy Properties Fast is because we were trading so many properties between the year 2000 and 2006 before the market crashed. We were the first company nationwide to set up a high street presence to give competitor advantage. Now, if you open any newspaper and you go to the rear of the paper, you figure out that there's so many companies out there putting in adverts saying, we will buy your property for cash, we will give you 100% market value, we will do rent to rent on your property, we will do a lease option. I took it one step further and I actually took out a full page advert and I said, you know what, instead of talking to the one-man band on the mobile phone in the back of a paper, why don't you come and sit with me in my office? And we'll talk about what you're currently going through, if you've got any issues, how we can resolve it, more importantly, how I can find a solution to your problem. And that's exactly what we are. We are problem solvers. And when we put that out, we completely wiped away any competition, because and the one thing that we said is that the guys that are acting in the back of the paper, they're acting as a one-man band off a mobile phone. If they decide that they're no longer buying your property, they can very easily just ignore your calls and you've got no way to find them. Now with me, because I've got high street presence, I can't just shut up shop tomorrow. I've still got the liability of obviously having the office space. So we've got a front. It's very easy for people to target us, and the press would have a field day if we did something wrong. So that gave people so much confidence in what we were doing. And what we found is that I'm paying rent for this property. So we're paying 10 grand a year on these properties. I think it's either between 10 and 12 grand a year in rent for this property. Now, all I need is one deal and it would have paid for itself. But think about the thousands of traffic and the footfall that we were getting every month, which allowed us to generate leads. And more important, all these leads are free because they were driving past us every month. All we've got to do is we've got to be able to convert them. But this is just one strategy that we have. Now, the following strategies that you see listed below, the most effective strategies that I've used effectively that account for 95% of my source deals. So we look at social media. Believe it or not, it's free. Estate agents, networking meetings, bandit boards, football grounds, supermarkets, shops, planning registers, billboards, and websites. So there's a number of strategies that we use. I think that we've got the best part of 30 strategies that we use. So I've only given you a third of what we use there. So remember, we talked about the short, the medium, and the long-term strategies. In flipping, there's three people involved. So there's a vendor, there's you, and there's the investor. Step one is the vendor, who hopefully will approach you with their property. Step two is you in the center. You need to be able to have the skill to assess the deal, figure out what the angle is, whether you can make a profit on it, and package it. Step three is the purchaser, the person who buys the property from you on the basis that the property makes financial and commercial sense. And the only reason that they will know that is the way that you've presented the property to them. But first, in order to do that, you need to figure out what the motivation and the pain is from the vendor. Why are they looking to sell? Now, I read recently somewhere on social media that people, the average Joe who put their properties up for sale with an estate agent may not be motivated. But in actual fact, I disagree. Because if they've gone out their way to put that property on the open market, surely there's motivation because they want to sell it. The question is whether they can afford to take a reduction in price, which will allow you to buy it below market value. So I do believe that there is motivation there, but more important, you've got to find the pain. What is it that's causing them discomfort? Why do they need to sell? And this is where you come up as a problem solver, where you have to be able to create a win-win-win scenario. There's three people in the chain. There's you, the vendor, and the purchaser. So you need to make sure that the vendor is happy. You need to make sure that you're going to be making a commission out of it to keep you happy. You're also going to make sure that the purchaser has bought a fantastic deal so that they're happy, so that they keep coming back to you for repeat custom because they are satisfied with the transaction, the way that is being perceived, how you've put it out, the professionalism, how you've dealt with it will all go forward. So what skills do you require when you're deal sourcing or when you're flipping? The key to it is negotiation and the ability to create a win-win-win scenario. When we say negotiate, you've got to have negotiation two kinds of forms. You've got to be able to negotiate the purchase and also negotiate the sale. So you could say that communication here is the key, because you're going to be acting as the in-between, the go-between the vendor and the purchaser, making sure that both sides are happy to make sure that the deal completes is the key, and everyone will be reliant on you to make sure that that happens. Now, remember, communication are things that you do in everyday life. Negotiate and sell. When you go to a shop, I don't know about you, but I always negotiate. I always buy stuff, try and buy it for something, get it a little bit cheaper. You communicate with people every day. You communicate with lots of different people every day. Whether that be your wife, your partner, whether it be your business colleagues, your work colleagues, but you're communicating with them. But I assume that you talk to every other person in a different way so that you can get to them on their wavelength. You need to be able to connect with lots of different people regardless of their stature. So whether they've got £1 in their pocket or whether they've got £1,000,000 in their pocket, you need to be able to step up to the plate, get onto their level, because only once that they've built that rapport and trust will they allow you to do the deal. And communication is something that you use every day in everyday life. But more importantly, what you require to be good, an effective flipper and a trader is hunger. You've got to have the desire, you've got to have focus, discipline, communication, internal motivation, enthusiasm and desire, dedication, consistency, internal motivation, and I've listed that twice for a certain reason, and self-direction. Just purely because property can be lonely at times, and from time to time you are going to get knockbacks. That's why internal motivation is key, because from time to time there are going to be deals that fall over, that don't go straight through to completion, but it's about how you pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, which will be the key, and that will come through the hunger and the focus and the discipline. You need to make sure that you're staying focused, you've got the goal in mind, and this all comes back to your why. This all comes back to the vision board that you've got. Why are you doing it every day? And if deal sourcing or flipping is going to become your sole strategy, you need to make sure that you've got the hunger and the focus and the discipline to get the deals over the line, because if the deals don't get over the line, you're not getting paid. And it really is as simple as that. But more importantly, and this is the most important thing, you've got to have passion. If you don't have passion for what you're doing, people will not believe you. People will not buy into you. And more importantly, passion is the key. Because working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. So if you love property, it will show in the way that you put yourself across. And that's called passion. And one thing that I'm going to say here, and I hope you don't mind me asking this, is that, do you mind if I ask, how did you find out about tonight's webinar? So did you get an email from me? Did you find out about social media? Did you find out about an advert that we put out? Did you read about it in one of the publications that I wrote about? What is it? So I'm just going to take a second there for you to write how you found out about this webinar. Right, just quickly going through these now. So a lot of people received an email from me. Quite a few people saw it on Facebook. A couple of people said that they saw it in LinkedIn. Some people saw it on Twitter. And finally, some people actually saw it. One person said that is a recommendation from a friend, which is really good. Now, the key to this, and the reason why I mention this, is that, have you noticed how many different ways I marketed this webinar to get 1,000 people on this webinar? We're fully locked out at 1,000 people right now. But I brought 1,000 people to this platform because I'm passionate about it, and I found a number of different ways to get you here. So that's my passion. So moving forward, negotiation is the key, because to be successful in flipping, you've got to be a strong negotiator. Remember, I talked about you've not only got to negotiate the purchase, but also negotiate the sale. The devil's in the detail, because if you get the numbers wrong, it's going to damage your credibility as a sourcer or as a trader. Now, with negotiation, no two properties or scenarios are the same. So anyone that tells you that there's a formula or a script, I've got to kind of question, because how can you say that there's a script for a person looking to sell the property below market value to a person that's got no equity in the deal? How can you say that there's a script for both of those unless you've got a different script, which makes it even more complicated? Because remember, the one thing that I need to get through to you is that negotiation is the key, and negotiation all comes in the form of communication. And the key to success in flipping is to find the pain and eradicate the pain. So by communicating with the vendor, understanding where they are and where they want to be, that's the key to flipping. And once you've negotiated the acquisition, not only then can you put it in a formula or in a format where the purchaser will understand and realize that this is an opportunity that they want to get involved in, and they will be looking to snap your hands off on it. And as I've said before, the devil's in the detail. If you get the numbers wrong, it will damage your credibility as a property trader. The figures are the key. If it doesn't stack up, it's not going to sell. If it doesn't stack up, you shouldn't have been looking to take it on in the first place. The more properties that you put out that don't stack up, the less likely that people are going to treat you as a credible trader. Now, here's something that I'm quite keen to boast, is that in the 15 years that I've been trading, I've never had anyone come back to me informing me that they've purchased a bad deal. That's 15 years of trading thousands of property, purely because I've got my numbers correct. And I've made sure that before I put it out, it's actually a credible deal and it works financially well. So there's lots of ways of creating value in properties. There's ways of creating value in the term of below market value, which a lot of people acronym use as BMV. So if it's worth £100,000 and you've negotiated at, let's say, £70,000 to £80,000, which means that you've negotiated a 20% discount or £20,000 discount. Now, on that basis, you could generate a small fee of anywhere between £2,000 to £5,000 because there's quite a large discount in there. Now, that's great, and that's quite straightforward. But what would you do if there isn't sufficient equity in the deal? How do you actually flip the deal? How do you flip a deal that's market value? Now, that's quite strange. But tonight I'm going to show you how, because the other options are that potentially there's a lease option to be done, there's a rent-to-rent opportunity to be had, or there's a JV opportunity where you do something with the vendor, or there could be an investment opportunity. Is a property underperforming? And I'll talk to you about this one now, actually, because this isn't one that's in the slides. In 2003, I actually was presented with an opportunity where the vendor wanted £70,000 for a property, and the property was split into 3 one-bedroom flats. And at the time, £70,000 seemed like a good deal for it. It was market value, but I didn't mind paying the market value for it, because the property was generating £7,000 a year in rental income, and I knew that was very low for 3 flats. So this was one that I actually ended up buying, but I actually ended up trading in an auction. So I bought it for £70,000, and I held on to it for approximately 2 months, and in those 2 months I increased the rent on all the units there. So the 3 flats there, I got it generating £15,000 just by increasing the rents. The tenants knew they had it far too low for far too long. We increased the rent, and then I put it into an auction where I achieved a sale price of £135,000, giving me a profit of £65,000 off one deal. Now, that was a phenomenal deal for me. at the age of 23 in 2003. I just created a profit off one property, 65 grand. Whereas a lot of my other colleagues that had finished university had gone into jobs where they were producing 20 grand a year, 20 to 30 grand a year. Some of them were on graduate training schemes. I just done a deal one deal in that year that made me 65 grand. Now, there are other opportunities. What if the property's got a development opportunity? So if it sits on a large piece of land, you could do a subject to planning deal. You could do it where you exchange with a delayed completion. Or how about if the property's got HMO potential? How about if it's too large for a single let? What if it's not paying for it to be a single let? Can you have it as a HMO potential? Then how do you value it? Do you value it on its commercial value, or do you value it on its bricks and mortar value? So there's lots of ways to skin a cat. Just because you look at a property and it doesn't work as a single let, are there other angles that you can look at it? If there isn't sufficient equity in the deal, can it still be done? And I've clearly just demonstrated that it can. So here's some of the fees that you can charge for the property. So the average property deal is on average around 5 grand. So last year, 2015, my average was around 10 grand, between 10 and 12 grand. You can charge 3 grand commission for a small house, a 5 to 8 grand commission for a larger house or a small HMO, up to 10 grand onwards for a large HMO or commercial property. And a plot of land, you can charge up to 30 grand or more. So I'm going to be talking to you about the most profitable deal that I did in 2015. And there's one that I took a commission of £40,000. So it's a property in Anfield, and here's what it was. It is one of my now JV partners bought it to me, and he came to me. There's a chap called Danny, and I know he's online, but for the purpose of the recording, he won't be able to be recorded. So if you're listening to this again, unfortunately, you won't have the benefit of his live testimonial. So Danny bought this property to me in Anfield, and it's a property where it's got a shop on the ground floor and it's got 4 flats behind, and the shop was generating £350 a month, and the flats were completely vacant. Now, Danny wanted to buy this for himself, but at the time he didn't really have the funds to do it. So what we did is that we got the flats. I went and saw the property and I met the vendor, and I said to him, well, would he be happy if we pretty much agreed a deal with him and he gave us 2 months grace where we could get the property income generating so that we could sell it on to an investor, providing that it was all at our own risk. And he absolutely loved that idea. We got the property generating £27,100. We agreed the deal with the owner at £70,000, and we sold it within 7 days on the basis that it was producing 27 grand at 110,000, giving us a fee for this transaction at £40,000. That's right, you heard it. That they got we generated £40,000. So Danny and I split that commission 50-50, so that we got £20,000 each. Danny bought the deal in, I sold it, and it worked extremely well. Now here's another deal. Now the landlord of these properties tried to put them into auction, but they didn't sell. He had quite large mortgages on these, and he couldn't afford to sell them in auction because he had mortgages on these at circa £53,000 each, and the auctioneer wanted to guide them at circa £20,000 to £30,000 each, which would £20,000 to £30,000 each, which meant that it wouldn't actually paid for him to sell them. Again, another JV partner bought me these, and I went and looked at the deal and figured out that in actual fact he couldn't afford to sell them because they were in negative equity. So we structured them on a 5-year lease option deal, and we sold them to an investor on the basis that it was a fully packaged deal, and the fee that we generated per property was 4 grand per property, giving us a fee commission of 16 grand. All in all, it took 3 weeks to negotiate and complete the deal. So for 3 weeks' work, we made £16,000. You've got to ask yourself now, and here's a good point actually. Are you finding this interesting? But more importantly, if you are, just let us know. Would you have been happy to have done that deal to generate 16 grand in 3 weeks? So a lot of people are saying that they're very happy with that. Now here's one property that we've got a motivated vendor. He needed to sell this property. He's got a large 6-bedroom property which was in need of modernisation. It was only ever let on a single let strategy. So I went and saw the property and we agreed a deal at £220,000. The property needed a lot of work. So what we did is we agreed with an investor to sell it to them for £245,000. They envisaged that the property would be worth £280,000, given that they would have to spend 20k on it. So that means that they would have owed approximately £265,000 on it. But we exchanged, and the owner allowed us to exchange and give them a 6-month delayed completion, allowing the investor to actually go in and renovate the property, which means that they didn't have to put all their cash in from day one, and they were able to sell it before they completed on the transaction, which created a win-win-win scenario. So just on that one, we made a 25k commission. Now with this one, here's a flat in Northfield, Birmingham, which is 5 miles out of the Birmingham city centre. It's a first floor 2-bedroom flat. It was an unmortgageable flat because it had a 51-year lease on it. We agreed to purchase it for 30 grand, but I sold it that afternoon for 40,000, giving me a sourcing fee for 10 grand. Now here's another one. Commercial to residential has been quite a popular strategy in 2015. And here's where the vendor owned this property and they couldn't let it themselves, but they didn't really want to. They didn't want to sell it. So we agreed a 10-year lease option deal with it, where they're allowing us to convert it from commercial to residential. And we found an investor that was willing to pay us a 5k introduction fee. And it took a week to negotiate and complete the deal. All contracts were signed very quickly, and we made 5 grand. We stepped out the centre and we let them move on. Now, I'm going to keep going. There's a couple of more deals that I want to talk to you about, which is this one in Middleton, which is near Manchester. Another one that we did with another JV partner, and it was a distressed property in need of renovation. The purchase price that we agreed, we saw that this one had great HMO potential. It was quite a substantial property, so the vendor wanted 120 grand. We sold it for 120. We sold it pretty much within that week for £140,000, giving us a commission of £20,000. Now myself and the JV partner made £10,000 each for 1 week's worth of work, but the deal actually took 4 weeks to complete, so we waited for that 4-week period. But you've got to ask yourself, for 20 grand, has it been worth the hassle? And I think this is the last one, the last deal that we're going to use as an example. And this is a deal in Birkenhead in Merseyside, where we agreed with the vendor. I think it's this shop here, which is completely all boarded up, where someone started the work but hadn't kind of finished the work. And we agreed to purchase the property at 35k. And we sold it within 3 days for 40 grand, giving us a commission of £5,000. And never at any of this point in time did we actually own the property. All we did is we controlled the property and we made a commission for the introduction of the sale. So here's the deals that we've just looked at, and here's the commissions that we've generated. 40,000, 16,000, 25,000, 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, 5,000. Now, just from these deals alone, we generated £121,000. And that's pure cash flow. No other costs come out of that. And you've got to remember that I did another 133 other deals in 2015. Now, you do the maths. Ask yourself, can you do this? Remember, no money in. All you're doing is communicating and being a deal maker. Does it work? Of course it does. Now, remember, the one thing to bear in mind, this works nationwide. And the best way of justifying it to yourself is that, ask yourself, is that if someone bought you a deal and it was presented to you with a property opportunity where it made financial and commercial sense, would you do it? Questions, yes. The answer is yes. You could have potentially been a potential purchaser for any of my deals. Now, if you've been receiving emails from me, you'll know that I'm speaking the truth here, because you would have seen all these deals that I did last year being presented to you in email format. Now, what I'm asking you to do is to do exactly the same. And there's even a potential to JV with me. So other areas that we did deals in 2015, Leeds, Huddersfield, Manchester, Wigan, Stockton-on-Tees, Cleethorpes, Gloucester, Bristol, Fulham, and other locations. We travelled the length and the breadth of the country looking for deals. We're after more people that we can JV with, and I can teach you exactly what we do so that you can come to us with deals and we can make them work. So let me introduce to you the Elite Property Tribe. Remember, we talked about that most landlords don't actually make job replacing income and don't actually have passive income that they had hoped for. When we talk about financial freedom, we want to be able to do what we want, where we want, and how we want, and when we want. Now, when you own property, you're constantly at the beck and call of a letting agent or even your tenants if you self-manage. Now, you've got to remember that property was meant to get you to a point of financial freedom. Now, if property is a ball and chain around your neck, have you just replaced one job for another? Think very carefully about that. Over the last month or over the last few months, what have you had to do to your property portfolio to generate the cash that it's producing? This question alone will make you figure out are you actually just got yourself another job? Have you created a business from it? Has it produced the cash flow you envisaged it to produce? Is it performing how you wanted it to perform? The reason why I ask that is because I want to help more people achieve the time and money freedom that they want, not only by teaching them how to do it, but I'll also be providing a unique way that they can sell their houses quickly to my investor database that I've built up over 15 years. The Elite Property Tribe is something that I've created. It's the only training company to give you the skill set, the mindset, the accountability, the motivation, and the ongoing support, and a ready-made platform to sell your deals that guarantees you success. I guarantee you success. And what I want to do is I want to create the greatest property dealing, trading tribe of deal sourcer machines in 2016. Could you be one of these people? In the sessions, I'll be teaching you how to find deals, negotiate deals, and how to sell deals. Everything that you need to know about trading or flipping properties is everything that I'm going to be showing you. Now, if you were to come to me and ask me for this kind of stuff on a mentorship, this would normally cost you on average 12 grand a year, which we'd normally break down at £1,000 a month. But I'm not asking you to do that, because what I'm asking you to do is become part of my team. So there's a JV opportunity on offer, only available to people who are willing to join the Elite Property Tribe. I will only JV with any tribe member who would like me to sell their deals onto my database. But if you find your own deals and you sell them to your own database, congratulations, you're going to be making a lot more money. Now, I like this slide a lot because if anyone has ever seen the film Wolf of Wall Street, I want to create my own wolf pack. I want you to be part of my wolf pack. I want you to be successful. I want you to I want you to share with us your happiness. I want you to share the fact that we've got you to financial freedom. I want you to be in part of an elite tribe who is going to go off and use this strategy to the best of your ability and bring in more deals that you've ever done in your property career. And you don't need money for this. Now, just give you some examples of some people that I've done JVs with in 2015. Paul and Tracy, who are already property investors with quite a large portfolio, they approached me with a substantial property that they didn't have the money for a purchase or refurb, but they didn't want to lose the deal. I'd rather make something from a deal than nothing from a deal. So if you're on the verge of losing something, but I come to you and say, well, here's a great opportunity that we can do with pretty much any deal, would you prefer to make something from it? So in a week where they were going to lose the deal, we agreed to purchase it for 120 grand and we sold it for 140, and we split that money 10 grand each. Danny Jones is a guy that I now JV with on a number of property deals, and he runs a block management company. With the property that he bought us, I went over and viewed the property. We agreed a £70,000 purchase. We sold it to an investor for 110,000 on the basis that it was producing £21,000 a year. The owner was happy because it took them less than 6 weeks to take this problem off their hands. Danny was happy because he created a 50-50 split with me on a £40,000 profit, which he wouldn't have been able to do, and potentially turn this gold mine into cash in his pocket. And as a result of that, Danny and I have gone off and done a number of more deals like this. Now, here's a guy we're seeing, which hopefully you can all kind of resonate with. He's a retired factory worker. He's got severe health issues, and he'd found a great investment opportunity that he couldn't quite structure himself with the owner, so he asked me for some help. I went to have a look at the shop. We both agreed that there's great, huge potential for development. However, we couldn't actually agree the purchase price for the building, but the owner allowed us to manage it on a 10-year lease option and allowed us to do a residential conversion from commercial to residential. And we then sold this development opportunity on for a fee of £10,000. Now, in the elite property tribe, everyone is going to be accountable. There's going to be weekly webinars on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. where I'll be showing you a different method every week about how to generate more leads. I'll be holding a quarterly meeting in person, so I want to see you pretty much like this, where we're going to be celebrating our success. The deals that we've done, some of the obstacles that we've had to come across. But I want to see you in this room celebrating that we've done something fantastic and significant to get you to financial freedom. There's going to be access to online portal where all the webinar recordings are, as well as access to private Facebook group for further group discussion and Q&A and support, as well as a private WhatsApp group. So every time, I don't want you to think that you've never got access to me. So we've got access through online or via telecommunication, and at any one point you can get direct access to me to discuss any deals that you got. Because remember, when you've got a lead, it's hot. I want to make sure that it remains hot so that you keep the deal and we do the deal. So I want to teach you how to become a lead magnet that effortlessly pulls in between 6 and 10 deals a month. I want to show you how to sell every deal you source in less than 4 days when you JV with me. I've got an investor database of 50,000 investors who are hungry for your below market value deals. I want to show you how to shine a spotlight on your deals so that every investor is desperate to have it. The devil is in the detail. You'll be amazed at just how quickly you can sell your deals when you use our proven tested templates. and how to build a long and lasting relationship with investors so that they become repeat customers for your deals and houses. And finally, how to build a rock solid confidence, showing you how to exactly flip houses every month for 10 to 40 grand without having to buy them or pay for them on a refurb. So there is a money back guarantee because I'm so confident that everyone that joins this tribe is going to be able to go off and make a significant amount of money. Now, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so if you think that within the first 3 months that you haven't been given sufficient value or information that is going to allow you to go off and do this, I'll give you your money back. No questions asked, no hassles or forms to fill out, no problems at all. The one thing that I ask is that you have to attend and fully participate in all webinars so that you have all the tools that you need to succeed. Success is going to be the key here. I want to see every single person succeed, because the extraordinary success of other property investors is simply by using our simple systems across the country. It tells me that you'll find it a motivating, supportive environment that will fast track your success. Go back to the wolf pack. How happy were they? How were they all making money? How do they talk between one themselves? How do they all gear each other up that they're going to do the best deal next month? Because in the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take. And how many, previously in your property journey, how many deals did you turn down? How many deals out of those could have been the golden goose? I've turned down deals previously, and I still, to this day, kick myself for it. Now you're going to ask yourself, is it really this easy? Am I making it too easy, too good to be true? Well, the proof is in the pudding, because in actual fact, I've shown you some of the deals that I've done. In actual fact, I could actually show you every address of every property that we traded in 2015. But remember what I said, the time is now. You've got nothing to lose. I'm offering you a money back guarantee. But more importantly, remember I talked about my father and his journey. There is no tomorrow. This opportunity will not be available for you tomorrow. We are taking the elite traders straight away. Once we've got 10 people, all I'm after is 10 people. All I'm after is 10 people. And all I need from you is a commitment of £3,000. And the reason why I ask that is simple. I don't want to educate you for free, knowing that then you may just very easily just turn off and say, okay, thank you very much, Arsh, pat on the back and off you go. I need some commitment from you. I need to keep you committed. I need to keep you dedicated to the cause, because if it's free, there's no value. If it's free, you may stop attending the webinars. You may think, well, in actual fact, something better has come along. Whereas if you've got some skin in the game, I'm going to keep you eager. I'm going to keep you hungry. I'm going to keep you committed. I want your commitment from you. But now up until the end of Jan, I'm after people who can join the tribe. All you've got to do is follow the link, which is just on the right hand side. Step number 2, type into your web browser, enter your payment details, and let's get you started. The work starts on the 1st of February 2016. Now is your time. You talked about your why. You told me about your financial freedom, what you want to do, where you want to achieve. Your time is now. I'm after 10 exceptional individuals who I can turn into the greatest deal sources in the UK. You show me someone else that has flipped or traded 140 properties last year. I'm that person that's going to direct you into you becoming the exceptional deal sourcer. I don't care what your background is. I am going to want to know more about you. This program is going to be very tailored according to you and your journey. I need to have you on board for you to be on board. So just quickly going back, Here's some of the things that I'm going to be throwing in. The weekly trainings and the Q&A sessions that we're going to be having every week. The access to the online portal with all the webinar recordings. The opportunity to JV with me. The access to our private groups. The access to the WhatsApp groups. The quarterly physical meetings where we're going to have keynote speakers in. The live Q&A sessions and the motivational networking. More importantly, and here's the key, you can only do something well if everyone knows how it's going. So I've got a group of power teams of architects, accountants, lawyers, and mortgage brokers. You're going to have full access to them. So again, remember, I'm after 10 exceptional individuals. Now, if you're not so sure about it and you want to have a chat about it, why not give me a quick call? Now you've got my personal mobile number. Give me a call. Why don't we discuss what's bugging you or what's on your mind? Let's see how we can make this happen. You can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. All these are my marketing tools. So there's no reason for you to say that you can't in actual fact get in contact with me. So I'll quickly go back because someone's asked a question, do you mind if I just send the link again? So if you want to become part of it, there's the link. The rest is now up to you. I can show you what to do, how to do it, but more importantly, why you should do it. But I can only do it if I've got commitment from you. More importantly, you've got to think, what will this money do for you? If you generate £120,000 in a year, what will that do for you? And what will it do for your family? I know what will do for my family because at £120,000 a year, I'm using that money to buy more property, which is a slow burner, the long-term strategy, so that my daughters will benefit from properties when they turn 18. They'll have a portfolio of properties, hopefully, which will be completely debt-free, that they can go off and do. Either they decide to keep and rent out, or whether they decide to sell is going to be completely up to them. But I've given them that option. I've given that opportunity. So think about that. Don't think about the short term that is going to cost you £3,000. Think about the return on investment. If in a year £3,000 has turned into £120,000, let's just do the maths. That's going to give you a 250% return. Where else can you get that? But you have to make that decision. I think I might have got my maths wrong, but you get the gist. Now, £3,000 divided by 52 weeks, which is what the course is, that's less than £60 a week. And then if you break it down, divided by the days in a year, it's just over £8 a day. Now, ask yourself, could you spend £8 a day more wisely than this? £8 a day is a trip to a pub. But in actual fact, what I'm offering you is a lifetime opportunity to change your mindset, to allow you to go out and become a prolific deal sourcer. So I'm going to take a few questions now. So a couple of people are asking, can we pay in installments? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to allow you £3,000, technically speaking, isn't a lot of money. But if you don't have the £3,000 and you want to become a part of the elite team, I'm going to allow you to spread it over 2 or 3 payments at the absolute maximum. So your first payment, if you can afford to pay it all in one go, fantastic, great. It's great to have you on board. If you can't afford to pay it all in the one go and you want to spread it over 2 or 3 payments, I will need to have your first payment of £1,500 or £1,000 immediately, with a view of collecting the next 2 payments as quickly as possible over the next 2/3 months. exceptionally clear on this, because I don't want people arriving to me and saying, well, Arsh, I haven't got the funds to do anything. Can we do something on a JV basis where we split it on a deal by deal basis? The reason why I say that is because you've got no commitment, you've got no skin in the game. I can't keep you motivated. Something will come up, life will come up, and you will find that you will slip away into doing lots of different strategies and becoming, you'll just become one of the many people who will fall into trying to do lots of things and becoming a master of none. So if you think that's of interest to you, and if you want to split it into payments, give me a call. So you've got my personal mobile number there, and we can make this happen. But don't delay, because remember, the program starts on the 1st of February. We have to have everyone signed up, ready in the program well before then. So if this is for you, don't delay. I think that's the majority of the questions. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your time. It's been, I'd like to think that you've taken a lot of notes here. You've taken a lot away from it. But more importantly, it's made you think that there are more ways to deal with property and make a lot more money out of property than the traditional buy-to-let route. If you like the thought of that, give me a call. I'd like to thank you all very much for your time. My name's Arsh Ellahi, and I will hopefully be speaking to you all very soon. Good night. God bless.